Today is January 3rd, and we're going to be reading day 3 of the Chronological Bible. So we start with the flood covers the earth. Genesis 7 1 through 24. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous. Take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and for sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also take 7 pairs of every kind of bird. There must be a male and a female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. 7 days from now, I will make the rains pour down on the earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights, until I have wiped from the earth all the living things I have created." So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. He went on board the boat to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. With them were all the various kinds of animals, those approved for eating and for sacrifice, and those that were not, alone with all the birds and the small animals that scurry along the ground. They entered the boat in pairs, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. After 7 days, the waters of the flood came and covered the earth. When Noah was 600 years old, on the 7th day of the 2nd month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. That very day Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, along with birds of every kind. 2 by 2 they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and a female of each entered, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them. For 40 days, and the flood waters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the waters covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peak. All the living things on the earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people, everything that breathed and lived on dry land, died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth: people, livestock, small animals that scurried along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people surviving were Noah and those with him in the boat, and the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. The flood recedes. Genesis 8 1 through 22. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood waters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the flood waters gradually receded from all the earth after 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began. The boat came to rest on the Mount of Ararat 2.5 months later. As the waters continued to go down, other mountain peaks became visible. After another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the flood waters on the earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded and it could find dry ground. But the dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back in. After waiting another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This time, the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the floodwaters were almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time, it did not come back. Noah was now 101 years old on the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began. The flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. 2 more months went by, and at the last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife and your sons and your wives. Release the animals, the birds, the livestock, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth." So Noah, his wife, and his sons and their wives left the boat, and all the large animals and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offering the animals and the birds that had been approved for the purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race. Even though everything they think or imagine is bent towards evil from childhood, I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night." God's covenant with Noah. Genesis 9:1-17. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetation. But you must never eat any meat that still has lifeblood in it, and I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die, and anyone who murders a fellow human must die. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. For God made human beings in his own image. Now, be fruitful and multiply and repopulate the earth." Then God told Noah and his sons, "I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all the animals that were on the boat with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, every living creature on the earth. Yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will floodwaters kill all the living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth." Then God said, "I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all the living creatures for all generations to come. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my covenant with you and with the earth. When I send clouds over the earth, and the rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with living creatures. Never again will the flood waters destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on the earth." Then God said to Noah, "Yes, this rainbow is the sign of the covenant I am confirming with all the creatures on the earth." Noah's sons, Genesis 9:18-10:1. Then the sons of Noah who came out of the boat with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. From these three sons of Noah came all the people who now populate the earth. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. On the day he drank some wine, After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and laid naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked, and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe and held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father, as they did not look the other way, so they would not see him naked. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his younger son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. May Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Then Noah said, May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territories of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. He lived 950 years, and then he died. This is the account of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. Descendants of Japheth, Genesis 10:2-5. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Media, Java, Tubal, Meshech, Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Repha, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Rodium. The descendants became the seafaring people that spread out to various lands, each identified by its own language, clan, and national identity. 1 Chronicles 1:5-7. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Mediah, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Repha, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanium. Descendants of Ham, Genesis 10:6-20. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabtika. The descendants of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on the earth. Since he was the greatest hunter in the world, his name became proverbial. People would say, this man is like Nimrod, the great hunter in the world. He built his kingdom in the land of Babylon, with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akon, and Calneh. From there, he expanded his territory to Assyria, building the city of Nineveh, Rehoboth, Calah, and Resen. The great city located between Nineveh and Calah. Mizraim was the ancestor of the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, and Nephtalites. Pathrusites, Casluhites, and the Capertites, from whom the Philistines came. Canaan's older son was Sidon, the ancestor of Sidon's. Canaan was also the ancestor of Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Semarites, and Hamathites. The Canaanites clans eventually spread out, and the territory of Canaan extended from Sidon in the north to Gerar in Gaza in the south, and east as far as Sodom, Gomorrah, Ada, Zebulun, near Lasha. These were the descendants of Ham, identified by clan, language, territory, and nationality. 1 Chronicles 1:8-16. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Zabta, Rama, and Zabatak. The descendants of Rama were Zeba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on the earth. Mizraim was the ancestor of the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, and Naphtalites, Patrites, Kalushtites, and the Capital writes, from whom the Philistines came. Canaan's older son was Zideon, the ancestor of Zidonites. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, Zinites, Arbadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites, descendants of Shem. Genesis 10:21 through 30. Sons were also born to Shem, the older brother of Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the descendants of Eber. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Aphrax, Lud, and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadad, Shelach, Hazmarite, Jerah, Hadara, Uzal, Dinka, Obal, Abimo, Sheba, Orphid, Havilah, and Jobal. All these were descendants of Joktan. The territory they occupied extended from Mesha all the way to Sephar in the east mountains. 1 Chronicles 1:17 through 23. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Amram. The descendants of Amram were Uz, Hul, Gather, and Mash. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah. Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadan, Shelap, Hazaram, Jerah, Hedoran, Uzal, Dika, Obal, Amalek, Sheba, Orpha, Havilah, and Jobal. All these were the descendants of Joktan. Genesis 10:31 through 32. These were the descendants of Shem, identified by clan, language, and territory in national identity. These are the descendants that descended from Noah's son, arranged by nation according to their lines of descent. All the nations of the earth descended from these clans after the great flood. So, basically, we see God starting all over again, right? With Noah and his children. Now, something that's very interesting to me as far as when we're reading in this account, and it talks about how Noah became a man of the field, and then he made some wine and basically got drunk, right? And then you have the incident where his son, is it Ham, comes and says, "Hey, I saw our dad's nakedness." So, in the book of Leviticus, and we'll get to this part where it talks about that the nakedness of a man is his wife, and basically what happened there, because it talks about how Noah wakes up from his stupor, right? And then what does he do? He curses his grandson, Canaan. So the theory behind that, and it's not necessarily a theory, it can be proven through the scriptures, especially as we read on, and then we go into the Levitical law, and they'll talk about that the nakedness of a man is his wife, and then to see the nakedness of a man, to see the nakedness of your father is to basically have sexual relationships with your dad's wife, your mom, which obviously is extremely forbidden by God. So that's basically what happened. It was a form of incest, and basically what Ham was trying to do, he was trying to take over the power, or become the patriarch of the entire family by imposing his power over his dad by sleeping with his mom, and then causing her to become impregnated, and then the result was Canaan. Now, this we also see this too. This happened with King David and his children, where they were trying to overthrow King David. So what did his sons do? They slept They slept with the king's wives or concubines to show their power over them or their lordship over them. So it's very fascinating. Another thing that to me is very fascinating as far as when we read this is that God has made a covenant with man and the earth, saying, "Never again will I flood the earth." And what is this covenantal sign? The rainbow, which in modern times, what is the rainbow used for? Basically, it represents majority of the things. I'm sure before the flood it was worse, but the sin that the Lord was basically fed up with, that caused them to flood the earth and get rid of all humanity, we're seeing it rise up again. So we are definitely living in the days of Noah in so many ways, and I think things are only going to get stranger from here on out. But I just wanted to touch base on that and do the reading, and hopefully it's good, and we're just going to keep on going through this. All right, guys, love y'all.